Hello parents and professionals. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how we can educate children that difference is good. So if you would like to learn some hints and tips on how to do this, then just keep on watching. In the last few weeks and months across the world, we have seen an uprising in response to the different types of racism that occur throughout society. And this can be a challenging topic to broach with children and young people, but it's definitely something that I encourage you to explore and to dig deeper into, because they're going to have their own ideas formulated already. Some of you may have heard of something called unconscious bias. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below, which will take you to an online questionnaire that you can do that will measure your own unconscious biases in all sorts of different areas, including race. Now, the reason why unconscious bias is something that I'm bringing up in this conversation today is because I don't want anyone to be alarmed or troubled if you discover as a result of talking to your child that they've maybe got an undercurrent of some of the thinking that you maybe wouldn't want them to have. These are often caused by unconscious biases. These are the biases that show up throughout our upbringings and our programming, that even us as adults, who can be very mindful and cautious at times around things like racism, we still have this early programming from our own parents and grandparents who maybe thought about race in a very different way back then to how we do now. And we need to be aware of these unconscious biases so that we can begin to tackle them and respond and deal with them appropriately. So please take the unconscious bias test in the description box below, because it's really going to open up your eyes to what your own biases might be so that you can learn and educate yourself and start to make those differences. But today I also want to talk about how you can begin to have those challenging conversations with children and young people too. Something we need to be really conscious and careful about doing is not making young people feel bad for thoughts and programming that they've probably received from either their peers or adults around them. So we need to give them a forum to be able to express themselves, but equally to be quite bold about correcting some of those ideas that they may have formulated, and to challenge them on thinking patterns that they have. Now, this doesn't just apply to race, although that's a big topic on the agenda right now. Think about it. If everybody was the same colour, let's imagine we were all green. If the whole entire human race was green, I can guarantee you we would still find ways to segregate from each other, be it on the shade of green that you were, or different heights or different weights. And the reason why this happens is because our brains notice what's different. Your brains are designed to notice differences in the world around us. So we notice what's different and we like what's the same. And that's just the way human beings are designed, but it doesn't mean that it's the right way to be. Just because we feel more comfortable with things that look more familiar to us and are more like us, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take responsibility for stretching ourselves and starting to think in a different way and being more open-minded. For example, you could have a conversation with a young person in your care about a particular religion and how that's different to the one that perhaps you and that child are part of. In having that conversation about differences, this can be something interesting. It doesn't have to be that we feel differently towards those people or we do not respect those people in the same way because of those differences. Actually, we can learn an awful lot from indulging in information about other cultures and other ethnicities and other ways in which people live their lives. We can learn a lot from it, not just because it's interesting to know, but because sometimes we can adopt some of those models for ourselves. Sometimes other ways of doing life work better than the ones that we've been doing. In addition, we know that when we start to be more open-minded and look at alternative ways or just alternative different styles of thinking, not only do we educate ourselves and open ourselves up for more information to come in, but the other important thing is it's so good for problem solving. You know, sometimes there are ways in which other groups of people might behave or things that they might do that can actually solve a problem that you have in the right here, right now. So there is a story about the vaccine for smallpox and how that was created. At the time that smallpox was an epidemic, which was probably, you know, not too dissimilar to what we're going through at the moment, it caused a lot of casualty and chaos. The scientists and the super clever people were really seeking out a way to be able to vaccinate against that disease. The solution didn't come from the top clever people. The scientists and the doctors that were getting together didn't have an answer. The person that came up with the solution was actually a dairy farmer. He'd noticed that his milkmaids never contracted smallpox, and so it's of no great surprise the vaccine for smallpox is bovine based. It comes from cows. So when we start looking at different groups that we're perhaps not normally used to interacting with, we can come up with so much more than we would come up with if we were only ever to integrate and interact with people who were most like us. This is not just down to one particular race or gender or genre of person to take responsibility for. This is on all of us. All of us need to be more open-minded, more open to exploring our biases, and more open to understanding and getting to know people who are outside of our comfort zone. Because when we do that, then we can find lots of different solutions for current problems that we're experiencing. And we can also start to create much more harmony and unity between each other. So my challenge to you for this month is have those conversations. Know that you might not necessarily agree with the things that the child or young person that you're working with is saying to you, and be open to showing them alternative ways of thinking with some good, hard information and evidence to back up what you're saying, so that they become more open-minded and more able to engage easily with people who are not necessarily exactly like them. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Following this video today, there is going to be me again sharing an appeal with you from my not-for-profit company Superheroes. So I'm going to hand over to Gemma from Superheroes now to share with you how it is that you can join us in helping children and young people with mental and emotional issues across the UK. Thank you. Bye-bye. This is an urgent appeal from Superheroes, a not-for-profit organisation that provides mental and emotional support to children and families throughout the UK. Since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, our qualified practitioners have been helping children hardest hit with grief and bereavement, a sense of isolation as they're separated from friends and family, and anxieties about their parents' future financial security. There are still many more children who need our help right now. So please, give if you can, and join Superheroes in making a difference today.